Welcome to F.A.C.E Howard.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Very nice to meet you. Thanks for taking time out of the post-Fed day to be with us. Have you ever used Zoom before, buddy?
I have used it as a viewer. As a panelist, not so much. So
Okay.
it might be a little rough.
All right. So there's a green box that says Share Screen.
Okay.
And you just click that and choose the monitor you want to use. And then we'll be able to see your screen.
Okay.
See it?
Yep, I got it. Let's see. I'll just need to go full screen here. I've got to grant access. 1 minute. It looks like it's going to need me to quit and reopen. Is that a problem?
I'm not sure. Steve, are you with me? Usually, did you click the green box where it says share?
I did. It wanted me to. I had to go in my system preferences and enable access to show my screen.
Okay. So click new share.
Let's try this. Let's see here. You got me?
Just audio.
Yeah, let me. I had to restart Zoom. It looks like this. Let me clean up my configuration here.
Okay, it's all right. It's live TV.
Let's see.
There you go.
Okay, let me just go full screen.
There you go, Mr. Megaphone.
All
right, so Howard, I'm assuming that your last name, that you're related to Bobby Axelroark on Billions.
That's exactly right. Yeah, we're brothers.
So you guys were shorting airlines when the towers were coming down. Have you gotten over your guilt complex from that? Being a billionaire hedge fund guy.
Well,
do you?
Well.
Okay,
yeah. Now I just
right.
need those airlines to bounce back up. I'd be happy, man.
It's almost like we had a different type of 9/11 here in the country the last 6 months. So worse. So I'd like to ask you how you got started in the biz, and are you a self-taught trader? Did you have any kind of mentors? What were you doing before you started trading, or have you been doing it a long time?
Well, my first stock purchase was probably 10 to 15 years ago. I think it was Riverbed Technologies. Jim Cramer was recommended it, and of course, it pretty much went to zero or close to it. And
booyah!
I've been exactly. I've been fooling around with stocks for a long time, but my journey has been a little meandering. I was in the Army from 2006 2010. And while I was deployed to Afghanistan, I spent a lot of time, building online businesses and preparing for my journey when I got out. And when I got out of the Army, I came back. I moved to Florida, and basically, I started a bunch of businesses. I started a software company. I started a brewery, among other things. And in that time, I played around with stocks. I dabbled. I invested 401k, IRA type of thing, but. It was when I really interacted. This is probably close to just 4 years ago. My buddy Merrick Z, who just moved to Washington, he got me back into sort of looking at, the platforms had changed because everything in the past, you couldn't invest in a computer. You had to go through a broker or whatever. And so once the platforms changed, that's really when I got into technical trading, and I sort of spent, years sort of. Building my own system. And it was really in December, the December crash of 18, when I really learned some hard lessons there and really sort of had to build some indicators to make sure that didn't happen to me again. So I am self-taught. Most of my work is obviously I lean on other people's work, and I try to give credit where it's due, but I like to sort of, everybody's trading style is different. And so I've sort of built my own style, and I do my best to share that with others.
Who would you say was a pretty big influence on you?
Specifically, besides my buddy Merrick teaching me, little lessons, about, don't try to be smarter than the market,
Okay.
And those things. But I don't really have a specific technical trader. There's a bunch, Ian over at the Chart Life on Twitter is somebody I really enjoy from the bullish perspective. And obviously there's the bears who you see, Zen and some other guys with the megaphones that you see in my picture here, who've taught me what the downside can look like. But,
Okay.
I'd like to say it's all a blend.
Okay. So do you compare it without it being lethal to having been in the Army, and thank you for your service, that you really have to be a warrior? I told people, if you hear this in your head before you do a trade, I hope this one works, that you need to shut your platform down. Don't you really need to have kind of an aggressive attitude where you say, I've done my work, I know why I'm getting in, I know where I'm wrong, and I know what I'm looking for. Prove me wrong, Mr. Market. More of a warrior mentality than, wishing and hoping that your next trade works.
100%. And before me, you guys were talking about the dollar and consolidations and things like that. And, I'm invested in precious metals right now. Silver is a big trade of mine. And so, you have to have a thesis, and it's easy. They try to find ways to shake you out of your position. So really, when I was new and I would enter a position that I thought would work, and then I'd get shaken out, then obviously, as others have had happen, the minute you capitulate is the minute it bounces or goes the other direction. And so it really is, you have to have a conviction in your position. And even when nobody else believes you, or it might be a contrarian position. And especially being on Twitter these days, where if you post it publicly, you're going to hear 1,000 different people tell you why you're wrong. So I like to use that as a metric for, where my trade stands amongst the crowd, but also how well informed am I compared to others that might have a better or different thesis. And so, yeah, I would say, especially, last night with some crazy market action, right? And so there's a lot of anxiety right now for a lot of traders. And so
I like?
I stand.
Yeah. I love about this Megaphone. You showed the old Megaphone, okay? Before we had the blow off into the end of last year, we had what you call a throwover on your less sharp degree Megaphone line. And then once back inside that Megaphone is when the COVID crash happened. And so that established a new high up there that we recently tagged. Are you looking for similar action in this Megaphone? We even had a little tiny throwover. It was only a week or so ago, and we're back inside the formation. Tell us what you're seeing here, and could we have another big blow off like we had before on the old Megaphone before it really tops? What do you think?
Yeah, see, so there's a gap here, and obviously I'm in SPX, but there's a similar gap in other indexes. But for me, what I've always believed all along is, well, to be honest, first, I never expected I thought this would hit, but the velocity in which it hit surprised even me. And what I've always expected was that we would tag the top of this and somehow set up what would look like an alternate, a repeat of February. And I figured up here, they're going to set a bull trap. They're going to bring it down here and trap all the bears, which I still believe that they're trying to do as we fill in this range. And if you look, we're in a fresh range. And so I think a lot of people get so excited about the down moves, but they don't realize that this is a range we've never really established before. So, at 33.93 or so was our high prior. And so it's normal for us to struggle here. So what I believe, and what I still believe, despite the overnight move, and of course today's action could convince me otherwise, is that we're going to go back up and tag this again in somewhere 3,600 range. And then I think I think inevitably we're going to have to tag the bottom of the top of this channel and back test that. So,
how do you come up with that internal channel? Because you know what people ask me, Howard, you know, I draw a lot of lines. I don't care. You could always erase them, you know, remove them. And they
right.
say, Dale, how do you draw your lines? And, you know, I think you do the same thing. And I go, I draw them with my imagination. So, you know, how did you come up with that internal channel? That's interesting to me.
Yeah, that channel I started drawing it back, in 18 as we were going through these phases, these cycles,
Yeah,
and obviously this broke down. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll just start finding points. I like line graphs quite a bit, and I'll switch and I'll see how does the line graph change, because that takes a lot of the emotion out, because you're not looking at the colors of the candles or the wicks. And I think a lot
great
candlestick
point.
analysis is great, but I think a lot of times it fools people, especially when they look at a hammer, an inverted hammer, and they get obsessed with these candlesticks. And I think a lot of times they're a setup. So, I'll look, and you can sort of see here. I'm like, this trend is obviously, several years long. And so, I'll draw lines, and like you said, with your imagination, I'll clone a line. And I'll say, if I clone it and I move it up, does it do something? And so I could clone this line, and I'm gonna look for a pattern that may or may not work, right? And so if you just start to play around a little bit,
Yeah,
I've got an artist mentality in many ways, and so that, I think, when you spend all your time on a chart, you just start to see things, and that's sort of how that developed for me.
okay. So are you mainly a stock trader and stock index trader? Are those, is that your wheelhouse?
Yes,
Well, you said
these
your precious metals positions too, so you are
correct.
trading other things.
Basically, I've gotten to the point to where all I did was trade futures. I trade ES, or I'll play around with the NAS a little bit, but to me, trading futures is a pure form of the art that I really enjoy. But it's also, if you have a futures position, and it can be a sizable position, it's as some of my other buddies know, it can be tough to sleep at night. And so I wanted to find a way, especially as as I try to spend more time with my family. What can I do where I don't have to look at my phone? I can let the positions manage themselves. And so I've really gotten back into swing trading with equities. And I do have a belief that the dollar is going to go lower, and I've got some charts here we can go over. But and so I've got some precious metals positions, but they're testing my faith on those. I think a lot. I think Jay Powell yesterday was not convincing, and I think the market is a little skittish as a result. So we'll see where that goes. One of the reasons I have this Megaphone is I can zoom out to a monthly. I think people get so obsessed with the Megaphone, up close, that they forget to look at
Forget
prior
about
years.
forget about the previous 40-year bull market from '82.
Exactly. And once you zoom out, you realize that these corrections are large, but they're not nearly as large in the grand scheme of things. And so I try to, and this is a log scale chart. So that's something I think a lot of traders don't use, is log scale. They just get obsessed with the parabolic rises and declines, and they don't spend time zoomed out. And so it was important for me to show, and this is sort of my thesis, is that these megaphones are sort of getting smaller and smaller, and maybe we're running out of steam, but there's still plenty of possibility where we can gain.
Yeah, I see you're using some fib extensions. Are you a believer before this bull market is over that we're going to see 47, 45? I see that number up there.
Yeah, and that's an example of where I think we can go based on just based on these graphs. But it doesn't mean there's not going to be pain ahead. I mean, what I anticipated was that we were going to break out and see a 20% decline at some point, and we'll see how long this decline goes. I think it feels nastier than it really is, but I do believe that 4,000 is probable.
Okay. I have a question from one of our attendees. Hi guys, I've been attending these summary sessions and trying to start technical trading. Our story is inspiring. Can you summarize how do you jump start trading from the beginning level in your late 30s? I'll answer this. It's you're not too late, and then I'll let Howard answer it. You could do this when you're 90 years old. So you don't have to go out. We don't have to go out, Howard, with a jackhammer and shovel anymore, right?
That's right. Yeah, I think for me, you know, everybody has a style. I don't know about you, but you know, for me, it's just you have to become obsessed with it. It's not something where it's real money at stake. So unless you're trading paper, which I recommend a lot of people do when they start, because you really need to learn what price feels like to move. And then when you start, you got to have a little bit of skin in the game, not a lot. I've made the mistake of, you know, blowing up accounts like others have, and it's not fun. And sure. if you don't have enough, if you don't have a you know, a source of funds to restart, you're done. And so for me, it's real money. And I think a lot of people take this, you know, a little too cavalier, but I'm obsessed with it. I even posted yesterday that, you know, I'm obsessed with it. And so being obsessed helps me learn, and, you know, I make mistakes, but every day I'm trying to get better instead of just gambling with lotto plays.
You know, I kind of tell people, you know, they don't take demos seriously, buddy, but, you know, trade micro lots in currencies where at least you know, you can't be damaged unless you do, you know, huge numbers of contracts, but at least you get a feel, even if you have $50 on the line, you still have a little bit of that emotional and psychological attachment to the money to get used to it before you go, say, for example, to standard size contracts. Do you teach people, Howard? I mean, when people found out you were coming, you got a lot of Twitter buzz. I'm curious. You also have another, I believe, another site has something to do with cake.
That's right.
I wouldn't mind, you know, having a slice with my coffee right now. So, are you mentoring people? Are you sharing signals? What are you doing on that other site?
Right. So Cake Trades, it's at cake_trades on Twitter. The website will be caketrades.com. I'm still toying around with that. And so for me, my number one goal is to make enough money trading to support my family and support my business through this COVID crisis. And so I am a natural, you know, I've been a basketball coach for many years. I haven't been coaching the past year because of a lot of the teams have been shut down, but I'm a natural coach and I love coaching. And so I've been trying to find a way to do that without sort of creating, you know, I don't want to insult what others do, but there's a lot of stuff out there that I don't think is beneficial. I think people cycle in and out of it and they end up losing money. And so I'm trying to find a way to be a coach and mentor people whose lives I can actually change. In fact, I've been toying with this concept in my head, you know, of some sort of like a local training center for people who, you know, maybe have some money to invest. They want to get out of their job and they want to make some money on the side, that sort of thing. And so, you know, I've got family who ask me questions. And so my challenge is that, you know, at Cake Trades, we don't charge anything at the moment. We're probably going to start offering a signal service, but I want to make it different. And long term, I'd really like to find a pupil or two that I could teach, because I feel like if I can teach somebody everything I know, they can teach, you know, if I can teach two, they can teach two. And then we have an army of people who know what they're doing. So that's sort of my goal long term. I just don't want to rush into anything. I didn't want to build a job where every morning I have to wake up and write a newsletter, or I owe 5 trades a week, that sort of thing. So I'm still working through that. So right now I just share everything I know for free on Twitter, and you know, take all the heat that goes with it.
Okay. And why why holding yourself out to the public with a pseudonym?
Because having a local business and, you know, obviously having a family, I like, you know, especially because I'm a little brash and I'm a little, you know, I talk a lot of game. I want to keep that separate. It gives me the freedom to sort of operate as my true self without having to worry about retribution.
What's your address again?
I'm in Florida, I'll tell you that much.
Okay, I understand. It could be pretty rough out there. It's really a tough house on FinTwit. So I could understand that. So getting back to the markets, do you think it's going to take, and you know, with the action that we're seeing here, a relief deal? Powell keeps talking about the Fed can't do it all. In Jackson Hole, he said it. He said it yesterday. and then all of a sudden there's talk of some type of interim deal that may come out of the Republican Party. Do you think the market might just keep selling off until we get another COVID relief package out of Congress?
I think that is sort of obviously that's the backdrop for everything, and that's the backdrop. That's what the dollar needs to go lower. That's what precious metals need to go higher. I think that's what it's obviously a lot hinges on that politically. But I also think we have a bit of a currency war going on with Europe, and I think that it probably has more of an impact than anything. And I think stimulus would obviously facilitate some changes there. So to answer your question, I would say, yes, we need that, but I don't know if that's what the market's waiting on so much. I think the market is needing a little bit more certainty from a lot of, there's just so many unknowns with the election, with COVID, with currency wars going on. So I think right now, to be honest, this is just sort of a blow off top. I mean, Russell closed green yesterday, and a lot of names rallied in the end. So I think a lot of it's just crowded trades are getting blown up, and the Davy Day traders of the world are getting stuck with their bags, and I think a lot of this has to do with trying to slow down the call buying. And also we have to remember that once SoftBank, once that story came out, you have to believe that somebody leaked it on purpose or for some reason, right? There's something going on there, but that bid has gone away because nobody wants to step in front of this this downward momentum, right? So the bid isn't there, and I think that's caused a lot of the failure to bounce, which creates a psychological impact. And I think we're just waiting on somebody to say, hey, the market's bottomed, and bring some confidence back. And I think that's whatever that comes, maybe it's stimulus, maybe it's something else. I think that's what's needed.
What would change your mind about your bearish view in the dollar closing back above the channel, the broken trend line?
Right. I think that, and to be honest, if the Fed, Jay Powell was incompetent yesterday. I watched his interview and I watched him take questions, and it was really bad. And I just can't tell if he's feeling like he doesn't have any, he says he has more tools, but let's talk about those tools. He hasn't done anything to, he's not raising QE. Treasury issuance is something that I'm really concerned about. So I would say that if the Fed continues to act at a pause, like zero rates isn't enough. So if this is where the Fed's going to stay, I think that is bullish for the dollar. And I think I'm almost starting to think that Powell is okay with that. I'm starting to not really believe what he has to say. And so I think I'm not far from changing my view. Even though I believe that the world is printing, people are accumulating precious metals. I think there's a lot of supply and some weird things happening with the precious metal space. But in general, I would not be surprised if the dollar, if this was an underthrow and the dollar broke out big.
Okay. Yeah, maybe what we need to do is blow through those tops, have some type of, that's not a popular forecast, because of a lot of emerging market countries have their, the bull argument is debt denominated in dollars, shortage of dollars. And I really think the dollar is a linchpin to everything else spins around it. So you get the direction of the dollar right, you could get a lot of other things right. Like I think the market needs a weak dollar, and that the dollar eventually will be the sacrificial lamb because it's kind of an invisible recession / depression if we just debase and things just cost more instead of having financial financial issues, crises, and a weaker dollar would solve that. And I don't think a lot of people would even notice it, because we've done that before where you could have nominal gains and everything. If he wants inflation, and that's what he talked about in Jackson Hole, isn't the easiest way to accomplish it would be to debase and weaken the U.S. dollar?
Right, and that's what you think he's hinting at, except he doesn't, even yesterday I asked him about inflation, and he didn't really have any answer for it. So, the worst thing that can happen, I think, is if we end up with inflation without any sort of stimulus, and growth stalls. And
stagflation? Like
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think we're risk for that unless, politically, we'll see what happens with the stimulus, and I'm not even convinced that the stimulus. I mean, I have a business, and the stimulus, it helped us pay payroll for a couple of months, but it wasn't much more than that. So, but at least it's something, and I think it's hope more than anything that people need. I think right now there's so much bad news that they need, the market needs a leader, so to speak. So I do think, long term, the Fed has been printing. They just, they ramped up the printer. They're not stopping anytime soon. Rates are low. I mean, I don't see how you could say that we're not going to blow an even bigger bubble. But the challenge is, where is it going to manifest, and how quickly does it manifest? And that's what, that's what we in the market are waiting on.
Yeah, hope is good. I believe it's the oxygen in our life, and it's also the carbon dioxide in our trading. So you got to have hope, but don't use it as a trading plan.
Absolutely. That's the worst trading plan. I always say, if you find yourself, and I always make fun of bears for this reason, because now they're clinging to the dollar, and they're always trying to find ways to justify a bearish thesis. And I think obviously price action right now is not great, but if you find yourself waking up every day looking for reasons outside of the technicals or the fundamentals of your own trade to justify a losing trade, then that's the wrong place to be.
Okay, so you say, you're involved in the precious metals. Do you have a roadmap chart on silver, perhaps, to show us?
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah, I've got, and to be honest, I'm not stoked with the overnight action in silver. I'm not, it's been having a hard time holding on to its gains. It seems to me, my thesis for the past week has been, the past month has been accumulation, and that they're just building a position before it takes off. And I always sort of use this wick off accumulation pattern as an example. However, the dollar continuing to gain strength, does give me pause. But if you sort of look at where we're at, this is 2008 to sort of 2011 here, and we're in a similar spot, right? Where it came up in this case, it tagged and ramped above 30, and then sort of retested this 2650 area. We got close, and so I still feel like we're sort of in this zone. What a lot of people point to us coming down here and retesting maybe 25. To me, that might change my thesis a bit, because I feel like this is the support level that we need to stay at. You can see it, it's a clear trend. So if we lose that, I might readjust the roadmap. For now, I still believe that we're sort of consolidating here, and that we should, once whoever needs to build a position gets it, or they cover their shorts, or whatever they need to do to clear the road ahead, we're going to sort of take off. And I believe, long term, we sort of got a massive cup and handle here. There's no reason silver can't push towards 100 if it wants to, if the inflation targets are accurate, and all that. But in between, it's been so volatile lately, and it's hard to say where it's going to go short term. I just have to stick to my guns long term.
Okay, Howard. What's the best way for, unless you have something else to show, now would be a good time to tell people that are interested in following your work, learning more about you and what you do and what your plans are to work with other people. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
I would say the first step is just follow me on Twitter. It's at Axelroark, AXELROARK. And in there, you can see my bio, and you'll be able to see where Cake Trades is. And I've got a t-shirt company that we've been trying to launch called FinTwit Swag.
Oh yeah, I saw them. I want one.
Oh, there's the market. So basically, I'm saying if you like what I do, go buy a t-shirt, and that helps me enough. And other than that, you can email me, howard@axelroark.com.
Howard, pleasure meeting you. And you know what happens after you do an interview with me?
What's that?
You're now my trading warrior brother.
Well, I like that. I'm in.
Okay, you all right with that?
I'm all right with that.
All right, buddy. Well, I hope you and your family remain untouched from this COVID, and I wish you and everyone you work with a lot of success in the markets. I appreciate you coming in and sharing your story with us on F.A.C.E today.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks for the time.
All right, Howard.
Best
Good
luck to y'all.
hunting. All right, everyone, that's a
Back
wrap.
at ya.
All right, catch you later. That's a wrap, everyone. Remember, don't just count your pips, count your blessings, and we'll see everyone to wrap up the week tomorrow. Adios. You're very welcome, everyone.